Mental illness in the late 1800s and early 1900s was poorly understood, as well as heavily stigmatized. Many frontier families lived miles from their nearest neighbors, and the family would have no access to doctors, let alone specialists. A mother who exhibited erratic or withdrawn behavior might be dismissed as melancholy or hysterical, or even touched by madness. There was no language to explain postpartum depression or schizophrenia, and religious or supernatural explanations were often invoked. For the husband, seeing his wife deteriorate without any understanding of what was happening would have been terrifying. If she refused to get out of bed, had violent outbursts, heard voices, or neglected the children, he might have felt helpless, angry, or even ashamed. The children of the family would bear the brunt of their mother's illness. A mentally ill mother might fluctuate between moments of love and total withdrawal. She might exhibit paranoia, rage, or even violent tendencies. If she became bedridden, the older children, especially the daughters, would be forced to take on her duties. A 10-year-old girl might suddenly have to cook for her siblings, care for a baby, or tend the garden, all while enduring their mother's unpredictable moods. There were also emotional scars. Young children might not understand why their mother was acting strangely, why she had moments of lucidity followed by complete breakdowns. If she became delusional, screaming at invisible figures or accusing her family of conspiring against her, it could create deep trauma. If she attempted self-harm or harmed a child, it could turn the household into a place of fear. The husband would be left carrying an unbearable burden, physically, emotionally, and financially. He needed to run the farm, provide food, and keep his family alive while also trying to manage his wife's deteriorating condition. If she became unresponsive or violent, he would have to decide whether to restrain her, hide her condition, or seek outside help, knowing that seeking help might mean institutionalization. Many men, unable to cope, might turn to alcohol or abandon their families altogether. If the wife became incapacitated, the husband might have to rely on older daughters or, in some cases, bring in a neighbor woman or distant relative to help, though such help was rarely available on the frontier. If word spread that the mother was mad, the family could be shunned. Neighbors, often deeply religious, might see her illness as a sign of demonic possession, punishment from God, or an indication of moral failing. They might fear her, refuse to let their children near her, or offer little to no support. If she had episodes of public outbursts, wandering naked, shouting at invisible figures, harming animals, she would become a source of local gossip and shame. By the late 1800s, mental asylums were the primary solution for those with severe mental illness. But the process of committing a loved one was agonizing. A husband might struggle for years before making the decision, either out of love or the simple fact that he could not survive without help. The process of sending a wife to an asylum was a legally complicated one. It often required testimony from neighbors, a local doctor if available, or a judge. In many cases, the husband had to prove that his wife was a danger to herself or others, and this was a painful and humiliating experience. For the wife, being sent to an asylum was often a death sentence. Most asylums of the late 19th century were overcrowded, unsanitary, and riddled with abuse. Patients were subjected to inhumane treatments, cold water baths, isolation, electroshock therapy, or physical restraints. Many never left. And even if she did recover somewhat, she might not be allowed to return home, as her husband or the local authorities could deem her permanently unfit. If the mother was institutionalized, the family would have to move on without her. The children might grow up resenting their father for sending her away, or they might never fully understand why she left. In some cases, the husband remarried quickly out of necessity, bringing in a new wife to care for the children and the household, creating even more emotional turmoil. A pioneer family dealing with a mother's severe mental illness faced unimaginable hardship. With no medical care, no support system, and overwhelming social stigma, they were forced to either suffer in silence or make painful decisions that could haunt them for life. The children, especially, would carry the trauma of their mother's illness and possible removal, shaping their lives and emotional well being for years to come. In the brutal world of the frontier, survival often came at a great emotional cost, and those suffering from mental illness were among the most tragic casualties of the era.